This woman, who had depression, tried to change herself. She happily went to school to pick up her son, and she sang and joked with him in the car. However, her depression suddenly broke out, and her mind became blurred, which caused the car to lose control. When she returned home, she carefully did the housework. She had been divorced from her husband for 1/2 of a year. After the accident, her son was also taken away by her ex-husband. Even so, she still cleaned the room carefully and put a photo of her ex-husband on her son's bed. She did not want the child to forget his father, but her ex-husband wanted to fight her for custody. In the eyes of her ex-husband, the woman had no income and even had depression. But he forgot that she had graduated from college and had her own career before marriage. Then the man provided a video of the child playing alone. He said the woman could not take care of the child and only slept at home. But this situation happened only 1 or 2 times, and only when her illness was very serious. When they asked about the child's favorite item, the man believed it was a toy tractor. However, the woman knew that her son liked the yellow mug more, and that was the truth. It was a lethal examination. If a student answered even one question incorrectly, the proctor would send that student to meet God. It was already 12:15 at night, and the girl was the only one still remaining in the classroom. She did not dare to pause. If she spent too long thinking or made a single mistake, she would die just like the classmates around her. However, there was only 1 minute left to submit the exam, and she had not finished writing. She had become stuck on the final question. While she struggled, the proctor suddenly lifted his head and looked at her. It was clear that she had become the next target. She tried to compute as fast as she could, but the proctor would not allow any additional time. Perhaps due to tension, she accidentally snapped the pen refill. She had already determined the correct answer but could not write it down, and the proctor raised his hand. In the next moment, she drove the pen into her own hand and began writing the answer with her blood. Fortunately, the answer was correct. The proctor halted his movement and slowly stepped back. She finally let out a breath and quickly picked up her school bag. She cast a triumphant glance at the proctor before turning to leave the classroom. The new recruit aimed straight at the target, yet the bullet flew toward the platoon leader's head. Everyone was shocked, and the company commander immediately kicked him to the ground, accusing him of attempted murder. The recruit insisted that he had aimed correctly and couldn't have missed. The two argued, so the commander ordered him to fire another shot. When the recruit aimed again, the platoon leader quickly moved away. A gunshot rang out, and once again, the bullet veered far off course. Seeing this, the commander grabbed the rifle and fired a test shot himself. He soon discovered that the gun sight was faulty. He demanded to know who had issued the weapon. A soldier stepped forward silently, unable to meet the commander's furious gaze. The recruit tried to defend him, explaining that the soldier had warned him about the defect, but the commander refused to believe it. That day was the election for squad leader, and the recruit and that soldier were the final candidates. Earlier, they had gone through the first round, a test of ideology. The commander had asked them to explain what being a militia soldier meant. Their answers, however, were unusual. One said that militia soldiers were like little brothers, and the commander was the big brother who protected them. The other said a militia should act like bandits, because doing good would only get them bullied. In truth, the militia's duty was to protect civilians, so neither of them earned any points. Next came the second test, marksmanship. The soldier shot first, and every bullet hit the target. When it was the recruit's turn, he almost shot the platoon leader by accident. Luckily, the faulty sight was discovered, and the soldier voluntarily withdrew from the election. Thus, the recruit became the new squad leader, so excited he nearly fainted. With his new position, his first goal was to bring benefits to his men, but he had no money, and the shop owner refused to give credit. So the recruit ordered his men to tie up the shop owner and rob the store. After eating, he returned the ledger to the owner. Then, using the leftover food, he recruited more villagers and doubled his team's size. Next, he decided to ambush the enemy. But just as he finished preparing, the platoon leader arrived and ordered a retreat. The recruit had no choice but to obey. Yet before they could leave, enemy trucks appeared. Seeing this, the recruit ignored orders and launched an attack. Because he had buried mines in advance, the enemy was caught completely off guard. After the explosion stopped, the recruit led a full assault. They quickly wiped out the enemy without suffering a single casualty. He thought he had achieved a great victory on his first day as leader, but upon returning, he was harshly scolded. Not only had he harassed civilians, but his plan was reckless and incomplete. So the company commander ordered him to write a self-criticism or face dismissal. The boy went to prison for 5 years in place of his best friend. Before leaving, he made his friend promise to take care of his paralyzed mother. His friend agreed at the time, but soon after, he sent the boy's mother to a nursing home and never visited again. Unfortunately, the caregiver there was cruel and abusive. She mistreated the mother every single day. 4 years later, the boy was released early for good behavior. He went straight to the nursing home and found his mother sitting alone in a wheelchair. When she heard his familiar voice, she couldn't believe it. She turned her head and finally saw that her son had come back. The boy immediately knelt down and held her hand tightly. It had only been 4 years, yet his mother looked decades older. Just then, the caregiver entered the room and froze when she saw him. Afraid that her abuse would be exposed, she nervously tried to talk while patting the mother's shoulder. When the boy left to handle the discharge paperwork, the caregiver threatened the mother. She warned that if the mother dared to reveal the abuse, she would spread the story of her son's imprisonment. For the sake of her son's reputation, the mother chose to remain silent. But one day, she accidentally fell, and the boy's girlfriend noticed the bruises on her body. This was the strongest rattan shield in the world, even the sharpest spears couldn't pierce through it. Just then, a cavalryman noticed a small opening and immediately thrust his spear forward. But that gap was deliberately left by the shield soldier, a trap meant to lure the enemy and strike back while defending. When the spears proved useless, the general ordered his troops to fire with muskets. Dozens of cavalrymen raised their guns at once, making the onlookers nervous. Yet the shield soldiers showed no fear. They calmly shifted formation to prepare for defense. Moments later, the cavalry pulled their triggers, but the bullets bounced harmlessly off the shields. The secret was in their construction. Each shield was made not only from tenacious vines but also reinforced with copper wires and strands of hair. Even the powerful musket fire couldn't break through. When the cavalry ran out of bullets, the shield captain gave a quick order. Taking advantage of the reload time, the rattan shield soldiers swiftly changed formation and launched a fierce counterattack. They advanced in a tightly interlocked pattern, slowly pushing forward. Whenever the cavalry reloaded, they immediately switched back into defense. After several exchanges, the shield soldiers reached the cavalry lines. Before the riders could fire again, the soldiers leapt forward, slamming into the horses and knocking them down. Against such agile fighters, the cavalry couldn't resist. Their formation fell apart, and riders began tumbling from their saddles. Seeing his proud troops defeated so easily, the furious general drew his gun. But before he could shoot, the shield captain rushed forward and grabbed his reins. With one mighty push, he knocked both the horse and the general to the ground. Ashamed, the general pulled out his curved sword and attacked desperately. But the captain's shield was too strong. Before the general could counter, the sound of gongs echoed through the field. The match was over. Witnessing the entire battle, the emperor stood and applauded, declaring this the strongest army he had ever seen. Even the foreign envoys were stunned. They couldn't believe that such small rattan shields could withstand musket fire. After announcing the victory, the captain ordered his men to retreat in perfect formation. Their discipline deeply impressed the once arrogant cavalry general. The emperor, amazed as if he had discovered a hidden treasure, immediately asked the captain how many shield soldiers he commanded. When he learned there were over 1,000, his joy grew even greater. He then ordered the captain to bring all his men to the capital to form a special military unit, a force he could use to conquer new lands and expand the empire's territory. This group of exam candidates actually cheated by raising their hands. Raising the right hand meant choosing option C, and raising the left hand meant choosing option B. With these cues, they got every question right. However, their strange movements soon raised the teacher's suspicion. But they didn't panic at all and quickly switched to cheating with Morse code. But the loud noise from so many people shaking their legs was too much, and they were soon stopped by the teacher. Fortunately, they had a backup plan. This time, they used head gestures. Turning their heads to the right meant selecting A, and turning to the left meant selecting B. Just when they thought they could finally pass the exam, the teacher suddenly activated an anti-cheating device. Immediately, a loud high-frequency sound filled the entire exam room. The teacher warned them that if they kept making any suspicious moves, they'd be dragged out and shot. Seeing that they couldn't continue, the class leader shot a glance at the boy. The next second, the boy started farting. At first, everyone was shocked, but soon they realized the farts were in a regular pattern. Each fart represented a specific answer choice, so the students continued to cheat. As the room grew increasingly foul-smelling, some students began foaming at the mouth, while others fainted on the spot. This man always used his left hand in fights, because once he used his right hand, his opponent would meet God. Until one day, he encountered a guy with curly hair. The guy, arrogant and conceited, boasted about his time in the Marine Corps and didn't take him seriously. Soon, both of them knocked out their respective opponents and made it to the championship round. The coach warned the curly-haired guy not to be careless, since the man had never lost a fight. But the curly-haired guy didn't care at all, even showing off the tattoo on his back and claiming that the Marine Corps never loses. The match began, and the curly-haired guy took the initiative, launching a fierce attack. At first, the man chose to defend, but the curly-haired guy's punches came down like a rainstorm. Then, seizing an opportunity, the man landed a punch that made the curly-haired guy kneel. After regaining his composure, the curly-haired guy started mocking and taunting, even deliberately leaving openings. When the man went on the offensive, the curly-haired guy immediately counterattacked, quickly knocking the man down. However, this was only the curly-haired guy's imagination. In reality, the man easily defeated him with just one hand. After the defeat, the coach only gave him enough money for a cab ride. But to his surprise, the man treated him to a hot pot meal. The woman went to prison for the first time and did not expect the buns in the prison to be so delicious. One of the inmates noticed she liked them and shared half, even though such behavior was forbidden. They then shared the crimes they had committed: illicit drugs or theft. When it was the woman's turn, she fell silent because she had committed murder. The next day, she saw an inmate braiding hair and immediately offered to help. To her surprise, the woman was very good at braiding, and everyone praised her skills. Someone suggested she could become a prison barber. The woman loved cutting hair but hesitated when she saw the recruitment poster. A guard noticed and encouraged her to give it a try. Initially, she worried that scissors could harm someone, but the guard assured her that as long as she understood the rules, it would be fine. From that day on, the woman gathered her courage and signed up. When she picked up the scissors, she was both nervous and excited. It took her 4 whole years, but she finally became the only barber in the prison. The barbershop, located inside the prison, served outside customers, and it was always fully booked. To get a haircut here, one had to make an appointment 2 days in advance. Because the prices were half of what they would be outside, only 600 yuan for a haircut. However, half of the earnings had to be handed over to the government. Most importantly, the woman's barbering skills were impeccable, and no one left dissatisfied. Every day at 2:30 p.m., she would clock out and head to the prison rest area to spend time alone. For all these years, she had always been alone, never pairing up with others. Many thought she was arrogant, considering she was the only one allowed a single room. In fact, the single room was a privilege granted because of her barber's license. Behind the envy of the other inmates, though, was the woman's loneliness. After all, a single room also meant she had no one to share her pain with. While cutting hair, she would remember the time spent with her sister. At the time, she thought she wasn't suited to be a barber, but now, as a barber, she couldn't see her family anymore. One day, she worked as usual and welcomed an elderly man. The man was surprised that someone as beautiful as her could be a convicted felon, but she wasn't afraid. Instead, she chatted with him. A prison barbershop sounded frightening, but by now, she had reached an age where there was nothing to fear, except for dementia and loneliness. The elderly man enjoyed the conversation, and so did the woman. Since entering prison, not many people had been this eager to talk to her. After finishing his haircut, the man frowned. He thought the technique wasn't quite right and offered some advice. However, the next second, he smiled and asked the guard to schedule his haircut for the following Wednesday. After the man left, the woman smiled for the first time in a while. During the 2 hours he was getting his haircut, they had chatted the whole time, which she liked. The woman then updated the hairstyle for the model in the barbershop. The guard was curious and asked why she didn't fix her own hair. The woman didn't explain why and just said there was no need. Soon, she became the barber instructor, as more inmates were taking the barber exam. They hoped to learn the skill and make a living once they were released. As a result, they respected her greatly and were very grateful. Meanwhile, the guard noticed her hair was growing longer and became more curious about why she didn't cut it. When she got back to her room, she dried her hair and measured the length with her fingers. When she was preparing for class again, 2 students from another block skipped class because they had fought over food. She didn't think such a minor issue warranted severe punishment, but she was just an inmate, and these were the rules of the prison.